Well, thank you everyone for coming. Our staff here at All Brains Belong, we've been really looking forward to this, of bringing folks together. Because you've all been part of this adventure, whether you've been part of this journey from the very beginning or you are more new to our community. You're part of it. You are what makes it possible. And so we're really excited to recap the past year with you. And we've put together a collection of stories that folks have sent ahead of time that we'll watch and have time for whatever you'd like to share afterwards. And then we'll preview what's ahead for next year. I'm going to share screen. So I think most of you have seen this already, but our usual community agreement is that you can participate today however you are most comfortable. You can have your video on or off, even if it's on. We don't expect anything of you. We certainly don't need you to look at the camera or any other kind of neuronormative default. Feel free to move and fidget and stim and eat and whatever needs doing. And you're welcome to communicate however you are most comfortable. You can unmute and use mouth words. You can type in the chat, whatever is most comfortable for you. And in addition to affirming all aspects of identity, we really want to respect and protect one another's access needs. So if there's anything that you need for full and meaningful participation, please let us know. And direct messaging is enabled, so you can even send private messages if there's anything that we could be doing. Hi, Rachel, I'm glad you're here. All right, so we're gonna just start off with some highlights from the past year, and then we'll watch about a 30-minute video telling the story of All Brains Belong, which it's hard to believe it's been 2 years. Then we'll invite, comments, stories, whatever anyone would like to share, and then at the end we'll preview what's ahead. All right, so when we think about 2 years ago, our vision was that of creating an environment, a community where there weren't defaults, because anytime there's a default, everyone else is othered. And so using inclusive design principles for everything we do, that's what we set out. And then, over time, that evolved, right? That evolved to pioneering a new model for healthcare that integrates medical care into social connection and employment support and helping people arrive at a deep understanding of their access needs. But it all began with inclusion. Our initial community forum in October 2021, where we asked our local community, what does inclusion mean to you? Which informed the development of our initial programs. I had this really noble idea that I was going to upload this to a PDF I can put in the chat. That didn't exactly happen, but we'll send that out afterwards. But anyway, so on the left is highlights from last year, on the right highlights from this year, and let's go through it. So in 2023, we had a lot of exciting things happen. New staff, new office, new programs. So there's our team. And so in this past year, we've doubled the size of our team, and we have the best staff ever. We really do. And it's truly and I think what you'll hear in the video as some staff members share their experiences, I think that our culture of interdependence here, and an emphasis on normalizing access, normalizing constant reflection on access needs, and really trying to create a world where people can show up, bring their whole selves to work, and create a world that's based on each individual's access needs. New office. Hold on 1 second. There's something going on with sound. Okay, there we go. Got rid of background noise. So our new home in February, we moved into our current home at 3 Pitkin Court in Montpelier, where we really intentionally designed an environment that does not feel like a medical practice because of so many members of our community who have been othered, thwarted, traumatized by the healthcare environment, and that stays in many nervous systems. And then our new programs, so much good stuff this year, informed directly from the input of our community advisory board, to really take a good look at unmet needs in the community and create pilot programs to try to address these things. In addition to our existing group medical visit, we started to do customized small groups, very small groups of people navigating very similar health challenges, where there was a recurrence, a kind of a cohort model of really getting to know the same people each time. We started integrating employment support. We ran 3 employment support pilots this year for our patients. The neurodivergent employment self-actualization program, helping folks in our practice start their own small businesses. HCAP is connecting folks in collaboration with Higher Ability Vermont, and my favorite program in All Brains Belongs, Boost, building occupational opportunities through support and treatment, which combines a cohort model of peer connection with employment support. Peer support for families, parallel play crafting, and our newest innovation, our All Brains Belong community check-in, which is an informal framework for patients in our community to have informal check-in. And of course, our All the Things project. And so all these programs, they cluster into these multiple domains. And as I said before, integrating medical care with all of these other things, right, that are not traditionally part of, quote, healthcare, but in a world where healthcare is more than medical care, really thinking about a person holistically and thinking about all the different ways that we can support them and try to move obstacles out of their way. And all of this being informed and driven by our community. And I think for me, a really amazing example of that is our All the Things project. So for those who haven't seen this is our Everything is Connected to Everything, Improving the Healthcare of Autistic and ADHD Adults, which was informed and driven by more than 100 autistic and ADHD members of our community. That has really come to better understand the medical problems, the constellation of intertwined medical conditions commonly experienced by autistic and ADHD people. And we put that all together, what we've learned this year, elevating the wisdom of lived experience and trying to bridge the double empathy problem, where resources created for patients, resources created for primary care physicians in the language that the healthcare community best receives information. So in our first 18 months, All Brains Belong has provided medical care to 339 patients whose needs had gone unmet by the traditional system. We've connected 127 isolated kids and teens through our Kid Connections program, where Sarah's made customized friend matches based on shared interests. We've served 1,276 adults through community programs and provided neurodiversity education to 527 participants. And in these first 2 months since the launch of the Everything's Connected to Everything project, this resource has been accessed by more than 4,600 people already. Whoa. And above all, we brought people together. We brought you together. You've done this. You are this community. You have co-created this village of learning and healing together, where people can show up as their true selves and connect with community. So here are some themes before I get into our video. I can't believe I'm actually staying on time. Anyway, what we've learned in our first 2 years. Theme number 1, healthcare is more than medical care. And when we think about all of the broken systems in this society, it's really about addressing multiple aspects of health. How do we do that? How about we just normalize that we all have different brains? We all have different brains that think, learn, communicate differently. And so since there's no one right way to, one right type of brain, there's no one right way to do the thing. And so we've learned that by naming that, like to date, I have not had anyone like respond to that of like, nope, that's not true. It's like, oh, I never really thought about it that way. And so I think just by like the oblique angle of just trying to demonstrate really how simple it is to improve access, there's no one right way to think, learn, communicate. Number 3, ask the community what they need. You know, when we think about systems change, we hear about that top down, like we need this, we need that, and that's all really important, but it's not the only way to change a system. You ask people what they need, ask them what stresses them out, try not to do that, ask them what makes them feel comfortable and try to do that. And I think that in many ways, the story of All Brains Belong is that of like reimagining what's possible from the ground up. And then lastly, of course, connection is the path to health. And what we know is that for so many people in our community, this is maybe one of the first times where we're able to show up as our true selves and connect with people who get it. And in so doing, that allows the shifting of one's self-narrative, right? Of like, I better understand my own experience through connecting with other people. There's a change in the way I view myself and my own experiences through like the shifting of perspective to realize I'm not broken and I never was. David, take it away.
Happy birthday, ABB. When you really think about it, All Brains Belong is a pretty radical idea. The idea that we would no longer make a distinction between healthcare and the rest of life, where we would recognize that health and connection were not only related, but that connection and belonging were fundamentally required for health.
Welcome to All Brains Belong, Vermont. It's a kind of an interesting place because it is a doctor's office, even though it doesn't really look like a doctor's office. And it's also where people can make friends.
Also an opportunity to meet others in the community who are going through the same or similar things, which then gives us the opportunity to learn from each other's experiences and to really value and feel valued by each other and feel a lot less alone and a lot more hopeful. And so it ends up feeling like a community more than a medical practice.
Let's be real. The status quo is not working.
When you think about your experience trying to access healthcare, what comes to mind?
I have medical PTSD. So when I think of the healthcare experiences that I've had, a lot of them have been very challenging, particularly from communications perspectives, trying to make myself understood to the doctor.
Act in this way, communicate in this way, or you will go unheard. And not everybody can make that adjustment. And so those are the people that are staying away from healthcare because it's overwhelming or confusing or uncomfortable or unsafe.
When I came here, I really thought my life was over. I thought, my energy was so low. I thought all that was left for me was I was gonna give up all my dreams and just sit on my couch and learn how to meditate, because that was the energy I had. I was sitting with this friend over coffee who was the director of the Vermont Disability Council, and she was raving about this new doctor in Montpelier who was out as autistic and starting a medical practice.
I knew how to be a doctor, but I did not know how to start a nonprofit, run a nonprofit, run a medical practice. But what I did know is that in order to make an impact and improve the lives of neurodivergent people, you had to change the world. So, like, to do anything for the neurodivergent community, you had to do everything. It's not just healthcare. It's it's loneliness. It's school. It's work. It's everything.
I came to ABB because I suspected I was autistic. And then when I found ABB at Fox Market, it was just All Brains Belong Vermont. And I just knew in the moment, like, this is for me. And I had no idea, like, even what it was yet.
Raised enough money to pay a couple months rent and buy some insurance. And then I just started like seeing patients, like in an office by myself. The day before we opened, we didn't have any furniture. So I posted on Front Porch Forum. Someone offered a recliner. Well, you gotta start somewhere. So I go pick up the recliner. I tell the person what I'm up to, and she's like, "Oh, you need to come with me." And we drove across town to where her sister had lived, and her sister had just passed away. My sister would love what you were doing. And she and her family loaded up all this stuff in their trucks, and they drove to Montpelier with me to our office. I sent text messages to like everyone I knew who can help unload a whole house full of furniture. When? Now. And that was our move-in story to our first office at 250 Main Street, Montpelier. This is my exam room. This is where I sit.
What interests me about All Brains Belong is the idea of a customizable menu to make an experience, whether it's a vaccine clinic or a medical visit in the office or a community gathering event, feel good to each unique individual.
The initial, hey, how can we best support you? Do you want bright lights, low lights, fidget toys? Do you want to have time check-ins? Do you want to have summaries sent? And going through that initial checklist was just like, these things are an option? What?
Being able to cue safety and adapt the environment for what people need. And I get to see people come in who haven't been able to get care anywhere else, and come in and be able to receive care.
We are in Mel's office.
I love banana one so much. Okay. One's out.
Can I do it at your place?
Totally. You want to keep it like a souvenir?
Folks that, are very, wary. Their nervous systems are settling down and they're leaving wanting to stay longer.
The idea that we can just say, this is my access need.
The way in which Mel has reframed that it's my fault, that I'm not doing something correctly, that I'm broken, which is, I feel like what the healthcare would say, like, you're not doing enough. And what I hear Mel saying is, no, the medical system isn't doing enough.
Did you know that it's literally free to ask people what makes them comfortable and do those things, and ask them what stresses them out and don't do those things?
And then I sent you my mind maps and my emails, and I think other doctors would have been just overwhelmed, but instead you're like, oh, this is so cool, this is so helpful.
It's also free to normalize that people can share their truth about their own bodies and their own lives however they are most comfortable.
I've had autism since birth, but I haven't had the words for it or the understanding that this is my experience. So I'm doing a bit of time traveling. I'm going back many decades, and I'm realizing that's why I did that. That's why I responded that. That's why I needed it to be that way. And when it wasn't that way, that's why I melted down. That's why I ran away. Like, it's all making so much sense now.
I just recently got my autism and my ADHD diagnosis, and since then, my entire life has changed, to be honest. Prior to this, I didn't realize that a lot of the struggles I was having in my day-to-day life were pretty much all connected to autism.
You know, me receiving my diagnosis was such a difference from when my child received his. We were, and I mean it when I say we were literally handed a box of tissues.
Ugh.
Here's your box of tissues. And when Mel told me, she was just like, congratulations, you're autistic.
My 5-year-old says, I have a really awesome brain. I have the kind of brain that can see patterns and make connections between ideas that other people don't make. I was so proud because, like, yeah.
Qualitatively, the experience at ABB is really different and really sincere attempt, the most sincerest attempt I've ever seen in a medical practice to meet people where they are at, to serve everybody well and to leave nobody behind. It's, you know, it's an incredible effort to make groups and meetings and medical care accessible and interpersonally, practically, financially.
So before we launched, my board of directors was like, Mel, yeah, I can't do all the things. My PDA raged. Like, just watch me. But turns out it's pretty hard to do all the things.
Healthcare is more than medical care, that we are also bringing people together through social connection, education, employment support, all the ways, because all of this is part of health.
Every aspect of my life has been impacted.
Overcoming isolation.
I'm really enjoying going to the weekly Brain Club meetings.
Employment is one of the things you spend most of your time with, and I felt like I was just spinning out. Prior to Boost, I'd never understood the exact expectation of what I was supposed to do, so I was always overworking, just always, you know, end up in burnout.
It's just like amazing and blows my mind that ABB has taken the initiative to work on creating employment opportunities for people in the neurodiversity community. That is like so fundamentally connected to my perception of health and well-being. It makes me feel like I have a future.
We've received all of the services that ABB is providing. It's giving us the opportunity in our life to do the thing that we were meant to be here.
A lot of people over a long time have said, oh, we need this or oh, we need that. And nobody had the energy and the skill together to do it. And then I met Mel and she had both, and it's just been wonderful.
I think one of our first game changers was the decision to hold a neuro-inclusive COVID vaccine clinic, open to the whole community, and within our first couple of weeks of launching. This was a chance for the general public to see how truly simple this radical concept really was.
You know, we all have different brains that think, learn, communicate, do things differently. And yet many things in society have a default, and vaccination clinic is an example where the default thing is to get your vaccine in a crowded, large group environment. But for many brains, that does not feel comfortable. So when we say inclusive, that's you feel like you belong.
Who best benefits from this type of a vaccination clinic?
Everyone. It's a unique, separate workflow for every person, and everyone benefits from that.
The vaccine clinic is the first vaccination I've had that was actually pleasant, which is, you don't really think of vaccinations as being pleasant. It made something so horrible into something wonderful. I got a chance to talk about what I liked, and I was 19 when this happened, so it's not just for kids either. It was a wonderful experience, and it's just one of the many wonderful things that All Brains Belong does.
I had kids who traveled from all over the state on their 4th or even 5th attempt at accessing vaccination. And while many were able to access vaccination,
some were not. Even if kids are not able to receive vaccination because the limbic system says no, I think it's like reframing what success is. Yeah. You know, success is not always just getting the vaccine. Success is, wow, you recognized when you didn't feel safe and you honored your internalized signal of threat. Like, isn't that what we want? It's a good thing when people have a positive healthcare experience.
Those neurons that fire together, the more they do that, the more that pathway is accessible and has ease. There's no ease in that pathway for a lot of our nervous systems right now because there has been no autonomy, because there's been no agency, there's been no freedom and choice.
You know, we realized we had to start talking about these concepts. We had to give people language for their experiences. And that was how Brain Club was born.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Brain Club.
Brain Club is like a great innovation and like open to the public and a chance for like, you know, a robust discussion about bring the spectrum of life issues.
So without further ado, let's talk about some lid flipping.
Flips their lid once.
Yeah, or twice, or like a million times.
400 million
400 million times. Did you know that some people think that they're the only ones who flip their lid?
Did
you know that?
No.
Oh.
Some people think they're the only ones, and they feel bad about themselves because they.
One of the gifts that All Brains Belong has given to me, and I think so many other people, is a common language based on common experience that we didn't know existed before. And when we can see ourselves reflected in the stories of other people, we become more okay with ourselves. And so that I think is the magic, and community and communication, you know, they sound very similar. And we promote both in an accepting village of people. You know, I had never heard anyone else talk about their burning hatred of leaf blower noise. And when I heard that, I was like, oh my gosh, that's me too.
Yeah, I'm not alone in that particular journey. It's helping to hear other people share, because it's building up my language, my communication skills. It's also smoothing out the rough edges of my experiences and of my perceptions. I'm less harsh on myself. I'm less sharp with myself. Like, it's just kind of creating a glow, like a smoothness around my experience, right?
It's exposing me to people being so beautifully raw and authentic, because the space allows that. And I can't think of many spaces in life that allow for people to come together in this way, and kind of like this radical act of trust.
That means so much to me.
It means so much to me.
But like when you really think about it, right? I mean, it's like radical trust, radical reimagining of building trust in other people in this way that like most of us have never experienced before.
Yeah.
And at the same time, what we're doing is not rocket science. It's actually not that hard to help people feel like they belong.
I have been volunteering with All Brains Belong since its very beginning. My kids also participate in some of the virtual community programs. All my life, I felt broken, lost, and like a failure, always thinking I was too much, hating myself, and wondering how others did life so easily.
When we tell sweet little loves that the way that we are intuitively feeling in our bodies is wrong, because there's a just so way to be, what do we expect is going to happen?
When I realized I was an autistic ADHDer, I finally felt whole and loved myself for the first time in my life. ABB's resources and community have helped me bloom into my true self and made me feel like I finally truly belong.
Shortly after we launched, I asked an 8-year-old on our junior advisory board,
How do you think we can make kids feel like they belong? And without any hesitation, this sweet little love says, you just let them do what they love. That's it? Turns out, yeah, that's it. So we started bringing kids together based on shared interests.
Stuffy night.
Uh-huh.
And I was there to help with the kids because, that's great. But then there was also like adults. I could have a stuffy night with adults. I have a stuffed coffee cup.
I love that.
Okay, I have a stuffed coffee cup and it's okay.
Hi, I am Spencer. In this picture I made the mega mushroom from Mario represents all brains belong, because really all brains belong and I honor that. So this is my picture.
When people talk about system change, I hear a lot of talk about top-down changes. We need single payer, we need this, we need that. And like, yeah, those things would probably be really helpful. But I don't want to wait for that. And we don't need to.
For those in traditional primary care practices, what's normalized is the dysfunction of the system. It's like, yep, this is just the way it is. So, so that's what we have to do. So we're just going to keep doing it. Just felt like there has to be a better way to do this, but like everyone's stuck.
Your organization has broken so many of the brain rules that I've seen in healthcare.
How about we right now, today, stop shoving people into containers that don't work for them? How about we just ask them what they need and try to do it?
When we really think about community, we think about bringing people together based on shared values and a shared vision of what's possible.
The practice develops is informed and driven by patient needs. It's really developed in consultation with patients, and like we're in these advisory groups and invited to join them.
Like literally, I feel like the next week I'd have an idea or somebody else in the group would have an idea and it's implemented. Like it's a community that listens to people who are needing the connections.
Really what we're doing here is creating systems change. We are bringing people together and forming this community health village of learning and healing together.
What I appreciate about All Brains Belong is how they really take care of their patients, considering all aspects of health, mental, emotional, and physical, and also how the providers are willing to think out of the box.
So I knew a lot about autistic health when we launched, but I'd say the biggest surprise of the past year has been all the things. So by way of introduction, we have a pattern here.
A lot of different symptoms show up in the different systems of the body that were fundamentally neurologically related.
Long COVID, and other, medical issues like asthma. It's very common, but it's also things that should never be ignored.
By elevating the value of lived experience, this has allowed us to learn about how to provide better medical care. It's different from how the mainstream healthcare system is doing it.
For example, if somebody has chronic pain, they often get put on muscle relaxants, which if they also have sleep apnea, because connective tissue is collapsing on itself in the airway, that's going to make this worse.
Coming to ABB, where there's already such knowledge of if you have this, the likelihood that you have something in the other constellation of the everything is connected to everything. The angle of you have a higher likelihood of having something of these other things. So let's just see what we're working with. Again, back to just completely mind-blowing. What do you mean healthcare can be like this? This is the most proactive care I have ever gotten in my life.
What I often see is once people feel safe and once people have been cued safety,
they're able to engage in community. And that's when we really see these kind of healthcare jumps for people. We see, people come to group visits and learn from other people and have that shame reduction of, oh, it's not just me dealing with all these things. There's other people who believe me, that there's other people who are like me, and get really quality medical care too.
And we are integrating that community connection into medical care, employment support, helping people arrive at a deep understanding of their access needs.
Met Mel Hauser a couple years ago on the State House lawn. And from Mel, I heard the term access needs for the first time in my life. And that same day, in texting with my family, I was able to create space for myself within my family for the very first time. And I am 52 years old.
The research says that the opposite of belonging is fitting in, because you are changing yourself to fit the norms of the already established group.
And what I realize now is I spent my whole life trying to fit in to belong. But when I'm fitting in, I don't get to be myself. I get to be like the version of the outside world of trying to and how much anxiety that has cost me, and how exhausted I am. And that to be in a community where I get to explore and learn about my brain and other people and other people's brains.
We're all in this together as individuals that, that sees things differently, hears things differently, and moves things differently.
I am so grateful for All Brains Belong, always knowing there's a place I can turn to be myself. I can show up when I can, where I can, how I can, and just to know there is support and resources, guidance, laughter. We do not do it alone, nor are we alone.
In doing the work of showing up authentically, and having other people also show up, and over time, and not even over time, it happened pretty quickly. People show up and you're like, hey, let's be authentic. And they're like, I don't know how to do that, but okay, I'll hear you out.
I love working at All Brains Belong because I get to show up as my full authentic self. I am accepted and valued for the person that I am instead of a masked version of myself. I think the organization as a whole works to create and adapt systems to the staff and community that it serves, instead of forcing people into pre-created and often inaccessible systems.
Being a member of a team in a safe place where patients can explore their health and be supported in doing so.
Truly an interdependent team, and meaning that we support one another and we really are able to be transparent about things that are challenging so that we can work through them together. And that's really cool.
One of my favorite things about working at ABB is that we could show up in full-on pajamas.
I was looking for a community of like-minded individuals so that I could share my experiences and learn. And I have found that in All Brains Belong.
Just the more people who are talking about what's going on in their for themselves authentically, and then somebody's like, oh, me too, and you're like, oh yeah, me too, and then you're like, oh, I feel like I belong.
It would take me paragraphs to explain that to somebody, and still I'd walk away feeling like I don't really know if they get what I'm talking about at all.
I can unmask. I can talk in shorthand. People understand what I'm saying without me having to explain a whole backstory. Like, to be understood and to be seen and to be accepted and welcomed and encouraged to participate. It's all the things, as you like to say. It's all the things.
So to have a place where I'm not masking and I'm not acting and I'm not spending over half of my mental energy trying to figure out what they expect from me. No, I don't have that anywhere else.
It's been a year and a half and I had no idea I would have a life again.
Didn't know that I would make it. And so when I say I know I'll live a longer life. It's not only do I live a longer life because I have the healthcare, but now I have community, I'm making friends. I feel understood. All of these things that ABB are providing for me. And then it's like the other patients.
What do you say to people who don't necessarily feel safe enough to try something different, don't have to, whether that be like, trying a group medical visit, trying brain club, like trying, because you don't trust other people. Why would I want to be around other people? Other people suck. That's been my experience.
I get the terror and the pain of hope in a medical system that treats you like a problem and treats you like you're making stuff up and treats you like, a problem instead of a person. The best I can offer for someone who has been hurt and gaslit and not believed is be brave once more. Once more, because you will be believed at All Brains Belong. And it's like being in a completely different world.
Just letting that sink in. Isn't it something that for so many people in our community, they haven't had the experience of being believed. They haven't been able to show up. They haven't been able to name their truth, be believed, be affirmed. Part of something just get it. And if they don't get it, they believe them anyway. Thank you so much to all of you. You've all been part of this journey, whether you've shared your story in video or text or art, whether you've participated in our programs, whether you've shared our posts on social media, whether you've, donated your time or your philanthropic support, like you are part of what ABB is. And I could not be more grateful. As Weston says in the chat, it is a different world. And, when I think about, and this came up in an interview I did with Liz before Brain Club last week. And I said something like, ABB doesn't do the thing. The village does the thing. ABB provides a framework for people to come together in, as Liz would say, this radical act of trust. That is what provides the opportunity for transformation of one's self-narrative. So we'd love, yeah, Sarah, this is perfect timing. I was going to invite anyone to share. Go for it.
So when you were just talking about that framework, it strikes me that that's exactly how life grows. I mean, that's like we have a skeleton, like we have our bodies are built around this skeleton that is like it's just this tiny little structure that that's tiny little sort of, there's enough structure for like life to hang on and life to grow on. But without the structure we'd just be blobs. But with this basic structure we've got, anyway, it just strikes me that it's sort of like how what you've described is sort of like how the human body works.
And everything's connected to everything.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah. So Jamie shares in the chat, ABB as a coral reef. That's awesome. So we'd love to invite any other reflections or comments or anything. Hi, Jamie, welcome. Laura.
I just wanted to share that I had an experience this week with my family and feeling like my immediate family wasn't being understood or respected, or it was just a difficult experience. And this community and all of the work being done here just gave me so much to lean on and not let it sink me and let it make me feel really bad about myself or my child or my parenting or my partner. It instead made me feel like, well, you don't get it. And I moved on. And I'm so thankful for this group, because that would not have been my reaction before ABB.
Thank you for sharing that. That's exactly right. Now you can discern safe from not safe, and you can, the more your reality is constructed by the people you spend your time with. Thank you for sharing. Peter.
Happy birthday. I hope you can hear me okay.
Perfect.
And we know each other from your days of medical school, and I think of sort of the difference in culture, I guess, that you and people have been talking about. And I think one of the differences that I'm sure the medical center where I work could learn from ABB and the example is just healing together and community. And that's kind of the way we humans are evolved. So there's been a lot of unfortunate industrialization that's gotten in the way of that. And I hear, as you summarize this, people not feeling heard, not being seen. I feel like I know something about how that all comes about, being like a professor at a medical school. And that we could also learn, about how that works. I'm still learning. I've been on both sides of that. So thanks for what you do, and happy birthday.
Thank you, Peter. And I think that, when we hear stories from patients of feeling misunderstood and invalidated, I think it happens because, like, just sort of like zooming out, it's like the metacognitive processing of like what that's about. I think it's like the system thwarts clinicians from having full access to their own cortex. So like somebody shared a story with me yesterday where like they're in an appointment and the person they were seeing made some comment, and like you could just see like I'm sure that person like just wasn't perspective taking and like wasn't able to like, okay, in this moment where like they're making me see 1 million patients an hour, like they just weren't thinking about how might those words fall onto another human's brain? And anyway, but I think that when anyone has a lens for, I am trying to cue safety, I am trying to see the world from your point of view, like that, like those situations, they don't happen, or they happen far less often. And I think those are things that, like, I remember in medical school, I got taught that. I got taught that that's what you do, that you connect with another human by understanding the way they see the world. And it's like the system thwarts that, the system interrupts that and interferes with like what we all know to be true.
Yeah, and then you were given a set of boxes to check, as we still have in front of us, and can limit our hearing.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you. Comments in the chat about the overlap between the healthcare system and the education system. Yep. And workplace culture. I mean, that's one of the many reasons that our model integrates medical care into other domains of life, because when you are not accounting for all of like the shifting of the messaging everywhere, it makes it really hard for people to have, and I think Laura's story is a great example of that. Like, how do you shift cultural norms of what it means to feel safe and authentic within a community? Or shares in the chat, I was talking to a nursing colleague about how rarely we consider ableism in nursing education. We cover so many other forms of identity and discrimination. When it comes to ableism, there's hardly any education, and it focuses on visible disabilities and macroaggressions. Yeah, and I think that that's how it is in the diversity, equity, inclusion conversations more broadly in so many different realms, that neurodiversity and accessibility are largely missing from those conversations. And I think that for that the internalized, or the internalization of those messages, I think is really bad for health. And I think, like, you know, I think one of the things that makes this community so different is it's like, it seems to me at least, both from within it and like zooming out to observe it from within it, is like people showing up to just sort of like collectively decide to reimagine, and like collectively decide to do it differently, collectively decide to like, I'm going to show up here and I'm going to learn and unlearn, and sort of recognize that there's going to be a lot of narratives that I have to unlearn in order to be living the life that I am choosing to live, which is really hard. Love to invite anyone else who wants to share. David says, I think for me, so much of medical care has become almost like a factory, trying to solve complex issues in 15-minute blocks. It's dehumanizing. ABB is so different. Thank you, David. Again, the system. Liz.
Hi, everybody. One thing that was coming up for me when you were speaking just now, and when your colleague was speaking, is that, so I don't know if this is just me, but I really enjoy collaborating with people, but I often I need an understanding of the bounds of what I'm operating inside of, and then I can get really creative, but I need to understand kind of like what the rules are first. And what I appreciate you, Mel, is that you pushed the rules out farther. And I think that has allowed people to say, oh, we're playing in this playground, not this playground. And I think that has been the way that you are structuring the vision has been really helpful, because that's how my brain works. And I don't know if that's a neurodiversity thing, an autism thing, an ADHD thing, or just a Liz thing, but that has been a fundamental thing that I've noticed throughout my life, is that like I need a baseline understanding of where I can go and maybe can't go, and then I can push on the places where I can't go.
Mel, can I follow up on that?
Please.
Just another thing in the long list of things that I have learned since being involved with the organization. With 30 surgeries under my belt, I sort of take for granted that in acute situations, I am on it in terms of my own care and what I need, and I can just be a boss. But what ABB has now I realize has helped me become is a far better primary care patient. When I met with my new doctor, the first session, I said, we're not going to talk about anything medical. We're going to talk about me. And he allowed that space. And then in a subsequent appointment, we had more talking about what was going on. And at the end of the appointment, he asked me if I wanted a hug. And I said, yes. So you've taught me, yeah, the organization and you have taught me how to be that boss in my primary care setting and create a better atmosphere for myself and my own care.
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, what you're both described, what you're both naming is, you're really talking about access needs. So
Mm-hmm.
I have an access need for clear systems, and acknowledging when you have the kind of brain that derives safety from predictable systems, of course that's an access need for you. And when you have a clear sense for this is what I need in relationships, whether that be with your healthcare provider or with your romantic partner or with a friend or with your coworker, like this is what I need in relationship. This is all just the framework of access needs. And connected to that, Christina shares in the chat, just wanted to share that the language I've learned from ABB about how to talk about access needs has changed my most precious relationships and improved our communication with each other, and allows us to bring awareness to our states of being and give each other grace. Oh, thank you for sharing that. Angie says, the first thing I learned in social services college class was to say, I don't know, but I'll try to help you find someone who can, versus the dismissive or belittling, egotistical messaging that doctors and others often say, like, I don't know about this, therefore your experience isn't real. Yeah, and Angie, I think what you're saying is, unfortunately, it's part of it's a culture thing. It's like in medical school, I remember being introduced to the concept of the hidden curriculum, the things that were, implied but never said. And I remember, like, as a first year medical student being like, I don't, how could there possibly be a thing that's everywhere but not said? And then, like, you're in it and you're like, oh, and you're not like, oh, until it's already there. And that's what makes it hidden. So it's like bringing, like just shining a light on the ways, not just in medical education, but like in life, the hidden ways in which like culture sets norms, and it like creeps up on you, and it shows up in your you know, your relationships, including like your parenting relationship. Like it creeps up and you don't even realize that you were like socialized to think a certain way. And it's down there. And I think like maybe we're more likely to default to those things when our access needs are not met. That is, when we're dysregulated. Amy.
Hey, I just wanted to share that sometimes it's hard to like put the whole piece, like the whole part of like what ABB has meant to me. But I think when I think back just a year and a half ago, like the state of my movement in life and how challenged I was spending most days on the couch and just feeling really isolated, and I have a wonderful life. Like I have a wonderful partnership. I have, you know, I have resource, I have privilege, like I have a lot of things, but I didn't really have access to myself, and I didn't really have access to knowing. I had a feeling, I have like a real sense of spirit, like I have a real sense of like why I'm here, what my heart is and what my heart is longing for, but I had no access to be able to move that out in life. And to like have a community now that well, first of all, to have doctors to like help me with my health, but also to have a doctor who has been able to give me access to things like dyspraxia, to like really understand how I move physically, how I move mentally, cognitively through life. Also like PDA, like what's happening in my nervous system, why it's challenged, why it's overstimulated, and that 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 you're also all out sort of in your own brains and can teach us through what you know about your brain, so it doesn't feel as technical, it feels personal. And then just to have like the social connection part, like I literally go to everything I can to start feeling like I not only like I have more courage to move myself out into the world because I feel like I'm reinforced by this community. I'm not looking for my needs to be met in the normative world anymore because they're being met here. And so I have more courage to move out. And now I'm like taking business courses to start my own business that then hopefully can serve other neurodivergents through my zone of genius. But it's even like Sarah Wilkins is like literally been as the person who has been like teaching me what my zone of genius is, like teaching me how to come back to myself, to like be a friend but be supportive. And that now it's like I could like text someone like Lizzie at some point if I'm like foot on the gas with like how am I supposed to interact with this person, or I can be on Discord now and start having different access in community, and just like texting all day yesterday with Angie just to like have a friend to chat about different things. So I just want to say like all the buckets that ABB has created, like I'm literally surviving in my life because of those different buckets, and because of the way that your brain, Mel, has like figured out what we need to not only just like physically survive, but to thrive in our lives and to be in like excitement for everyone else that we see is also starting to thrive in their lives, is just the gift of my life right now. And so I'm just really like happy birthday and so happy to be here with everyone.
Oh, Amy, thank you so much for that. Gabe. Oh, yeah. Hang on 1 second, Angie. Gabe, go. Gabe, you want to go, and then Angie after Gabe?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. This is such an emotional time. um, I think so, kind of spinning off of what Amy said. I don't know how many people know this, but Mel and I went to residency together. She was my chief resident. And being the unaware, I was neurodivergent at the time and a humanitarian like Mel, I proposed to the faculty that we needed to prevent burnout in our residents because that was the same time the Medscape article came out about physician suicide. And I was like, I will not stand for that. And so I said, we need to do something about this. And our very wise program director was like, okay, start a task force. And I was like, oh, crap. So then, hang on, I have cars coming. I'm sorry. So then, obviously, Mel was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I'm gonna do this with you. We're gonna do this. And we did it. We started this task force for burnout prevention and wellness promotion. And what I'm starting to realize now is it had all the same buckets. Mel, do you realize that? There was connection. So we had, I forget what we called them. We called them like Wellness Wednesdays. And so like there would be like a social gathering. That was optional, of course. But we used the same buckets and we tracked the impact. And I mean, there was significant impact and the program still runs that today. It became integrated into the 4-year residency program. It just became a part of what it was. And I think that was the start of like, who is this person, Mel Hauser? Some kind of superhero? And anyways, when I heard that she was starting this program, I knew that it was going to be something great. And I didn't know that I was burning out quickly. And I reached out to her and she was like, okay, we'll come work here. And so here we are. So thanks, Mel. Sorry about the dogs, but thank you. Happy birthday.
Gabe, thank you for those. I forgot about a lot of that, but the story's actually it's a little bit different than you just told it. So the real story at the end is that we reached out to you for your expertise in the management of all the things. And that's how this happened. We reached out to you because you're such an incredible resource to us, and we are so glad. I'm sorry you got thwarted and burned out by the system, but I'm really glad we poached you from the system.
Well played, Mel.
Angie.
When this video started, I thought, look at all of my friends. And this is such a big deal for me because I have immune deficiency and COVID means that I can't go out to buildings and I can't meet people. But All Brains not only is a place where I get to meet with people like Gabe, who's investigating all of my mast cell reactions and my central processing disorder, and Mel supporting me, learning that I have dyspraxia and all these other things, that this is just such a wonderful support of me as a human being who is isolated from community. Now I have one, all of you. Thank you.
Sharing that, Angie, that's amazing. My friends, that's gonna stay with me. The catch up in Go for it. No, I was gonna.
I couldn't tell if someone else had their hand up. Did someone else have their hand up?
I don't see
Okay.
other hands. Go for it,
Okay.
Amy.
Yeah, I was just coming to say, I came for my kids, but really I'm the one that has benefited the most. I feel like, well, I didn't realize how much I needed ABB more than just on a personal level and not just as the mother of two PDA kiddos. But, I was desperate to find someone that understood my kids, which also meant understood me. And so the timing was perfect for me. And, but I guess I wanted to share like, being in the role of having the parent of two autistic kids that need a lot of medical help and care over the years with potential EDS. And we went to do an allergy test recently. It was down at Dartmouth, and they decided to change what they were doing. They didn't get the answers they wanted, so all of a sudden we were talking about a blood draw that wasn't on the list of things I was preparing Lael for mentally before we went there. And next thing you know, they wanted a blood draw, and after doing the scratch test, and there was a big build up to it because we had to put on paste. But Lael was sincerely scared and uncomfortable and didn't feel safe, and I saw that in her, and I was listening to what she was saying, and the nurse was getting annoyed, and she quietly walked out of the room and got a second nurse. And I was like, in this situation in the past with vaccinations, I knew what that meant. That meant they were about to consider like restraining her to do what they were going to do. And for the first time, I stood up and I was like, whoa, freeze. What's going on? Where are we going with this? I want to know. And I was like, this is not how we're doing this. And and it took a little bit of time, and I had to work through my like, we're taking too much time for these professionals thing going on in my head. But we stood our ground, and Lael kept, I kept being like, we're not forcing her to do this, and trying to get her to be okay with it. And then they finally brought in these two women that were amazing with her and had this really calm interaction with her, and they were able to get the blood, no problem. But but it took us being like, it's not okay, and it to like them not to be able to do it, I guess, as quickly as they wanted to be like, okay, let's go get these other two people. But it was like, I came out of that being like, the realization of the task ahead of advocating for my kids and making sure their needs are met and feeling empowered to do it. And I feel like ABB has really helped with that, empowering me to speak up more for them when I have to leave ABB to seek help for them, and yeah, I just want to say I like came out of that situation feeling much better than I have in the past. In the past, a vaccine was a restraint happened, and that's how it happened, as a vaccine happened. And it was always upsetting and defeating for all of us involved, And so I'm just glad to see that can be different. And so thank you.
Oh, Amy, I'm so proud of you. I mean, it really sucks how the burden falls to individuals to work so hard swimming upstream to name their access needs and advocate. And because you've seen what's possible, you were able to do it, and you modeled for your children. That's how it should go. Of like, hey, that's not okay. This is what I need instead.
Yeah, the other thing I was thinking about with this is like, we walk into parenthood, or I did, thinking about, oh, this is something that worked for me and this is what we're going to do. And we get all these messages about get your kids into sports or get them into structure, or all these things about what's going to fix our PDAers, and I'm sitting here and I'm realizing what I want to take from my experience growing up and make different for them. I think, a big part of that is the medical piece, is walking through their medical experience more empowered than I was. I walked out of so many doctor's appointments where I went in there scared, and I finally went in asking for help, and they're like, well, you're just overweight. Go fix that, and, but, yeah, being able to like lay that foundation for my kids is awesome. And thank you.
You for sharing that. And like, that's so many people's experiences, like, oh, well, I just go do the thing and it's expected of me, so I just suck it up and do the thing. And and if you live a life of cortical override, guess what, that takes its toll. And it's so inspiring and gives me so much hope to think about this next generation growing up with a lens of understanding their access needs, how their brains work, what they need in this world. They don't have to do that. Thank you all so much for sharing. Also have a text quote from Britt sent ahead of time that she wanted us to read. The treatment that I've received from ABB has truly helped me throughout the time I've been a patient here. Since becoming a patient, I've been diagnosed with what I believe to be the correct diagnoses, which means I'm starting to get the correct treatment and care I've been needing for years. Sierra, Gabe, and Mel have been able to find causes of years of being a medical mystery. I'm still a medical mystery, but I feel like I'm being listened to and not pushed or rushed off like I have in the past. Thank you, ABB. Here's to another year. Thank you, Britt. I'm going to shift and preview what's ahead for 2024. And there's some lovely messages in the chat. A lot of Me Too's. All right, let me share screen. So 2024 is really a focus on the sustainability of this work, really strengthening our systems. We're for the end of this calendar year will be you can look forward to some assessment of impact, asking you some other more specific pointed questions about some of the pilots we've run this year so that we can really understand what is having the most impact, and strengthening our systems to ensure that everyone has access to the programs that we have, people who are here already. And so evaluating those barriers through a year-long process of an equity audit, and thinking about access in all of our programs, in all the different stages of workflow. And I think that in particular, one program that will be expanding as opposed to sustaining is our employment support programs. I think that we've been so heartened to see the clear impact of what it looks like to be integrating employment support into medical care and into social connection, that we will be working on expanding that so that more of our patients can access that program. And then externally, really focusing on mass impact. And so, how do you reach the more people than we're going to ever be able to provide direct services for, is going to be through trainings, helping to expand the capacity of the outside world, neurodiversity trainings for employers and healthcare providers, so that especially because as we've been talking about all afternoon, some of these things are about shifting your lens, not necessarily like spending it really is as simple as shifting the way you see the world. And then, of course, our community programs. We are planning to continue all of our new community programs at no cost to participants. So that's Brain Club, that's Kid Connections, and sometimes we maybe have to think about the name of it because sometimes teens are like, Kid Connections, that's not for me. It is for you. So Kid Connections serves kids 3 to 17. Parallelly Crafting, Family Connections, our patient community structures, the community check-in, Discord server, we mentioned employment support, and our patient village mutual aid framework. We're planning to continue all of those programs at no cost to participants. How are we gonna do that? Well, a month from now, a little bit less than a month from now, we are very excited. You're the first group of people to see this announcement. But next month starts the Did You Know This Could Be Healthcare campaign. Due to a generous matching donation from an ABB supporter. This is an opportunity to raise $25,000 and have it become $50,000 at the end of the year. And so tomorrow is the end of our pre-campaign. So the pre-campaign and the pre-campaign's $5,000 goal for each of those things. So that when we launch the campaign on November 13th to the public, we'll that meter will be well underway toward 25,000. So we're so close. And so I'm really confident. I'm very optimistic that we'll hit that $5,000 goal by tomorrow. And then for anybody who wants to be involved as a storyteller, we would love for anyone who is interested in helping spread the word about the campaign through Facebook fundraisers, also just like posting on social media. We've made a supporter toolkit, and sort of like it's an opportunity to raise $50,000 to support all of those community programs that are offered at no cost to participants. That's what $50,000 covers. Links to all our social media stuff. That's what it costs to run those examples of. But it's also about spreading the mission, right? Ways of sharing on social media about the campaign. It's also a place so that make donations. When we think about how these very important. Thanks for the question. Thanks for supporting my. We all have different brains that do things differently. One size fits all does not work for all. Like, these are messages that we are just. Now's the time to spread that. All right. Well, it is 1:30. Thank you all so much for joining us this afternoon. That's what we can look forward to. And thank you for being part of our community. Happy birthday, ABB. Have a great day.